So we are now seeing that inflation is breaking records in the US, and in this video, I'm going to talk about its impact on Dogecoin and others. So as per the latest U.S. Consumer Price Index data, the inflation rate in the U.S. touched 7.5% in the month of January. And we are now seeing that January is now the 8th consecutive month in which inflation topped 5% in the U.S. And this is a good thing for cryptos like Dogecoin and Bitcoin, as more and more investors are now rushing towards them to hedge against the rising inflation. But we should not forget that the Fed has previously indicated that it is going to increase the interest rate in order to counter the rising inflation. And this is why we are now seeing that the crypto market has been behaving much like the stock market, and it is reacting to concerns about higher interest rates. And this is exactly why there is currently a slight decline in the prices of Bitcoin, Doge, and others. However, while some people think that a hike in interest rate is going to be a negative thing for cryptos, the reality is quite different. As per by the Deutsche Bank, when there is an interest rate hike by the Fed, cryptos and stocks keep hiking. This is because what's going to happen is the Fed is now printing more and more money. And as a result, inflation is going to go out of control even if it increases interest rates. So that's going to cause more and more people to actually come into the crypto market. And we can see here that Bloomberg intelligence analyst Mike McGlone also believes that the Fed's new policies will be beneficial for Bitcoin. He believes that the interest rate hikes in 2022 will support a win-win scenario for Bitcoin versus the stock market. This is because if risk assets decline, it helps the Fed's inflation fight. And becoming a global reserve asset, Bitcoin will be a primary beneficiary in that scenario. So the point is that inflation in the United States is rising dramatically, and now the Fed is going to hike the interest rates as well. And as I said, this move by the Fed is actually going to be beneficial for the overall crypto market in the long run. In any case, I'd like to remind you here that this is no financial advice since I'm not a professional financial advisor. I'm just expressing my opinion here, so it is recommended that you do your own research before investing in cryptos. And while rising inflation is good for cryptos in the long run, it appears that it is driving the prices of cryptos to the downside. From Bitcoin and Ethereum to Dogecoin, we are now seeing that the prices of these cryptos have been on the downside since the release of this CPI report. However, I think that the situation is not bleak for cryptos. And if we talk about Bitcoin, in particular, it has remained above the 50-day moving average despite shedding off some value in the last 24 hours. And crypto analyst Lark Davis believes that the last two times Bitcoin crossed over this line, it rallied by 54% and 47%. So he has predicted that if history rhymes, then we could see Bitcoin rallying up into the 60K range in the next few weeks. And while we were just talking about rising inflation, it now appears that more and more people are going to invest in Bitcoin to take a hedge against inflation. This is because shiny rocks have failed as a hedge against inflation. And as per the latest data, gold's price is having a 555 days downtrend after losing 50% of its value in the most inflationary period in history. And at the same time, Bitcoin's price is having a 555 days upward movement after gaining 300% and putting in higher highs. So this is just more and more confirmation that investors are now going to realize the value of Bitcoin, and they will start investing in it amid rising inflation. And now let's come to a very positive update for Dogecoin and some other cryptos. So IZA Worldwide, an influencer marketing company, is now accepting payments in Dogecoin, Litecoin, Shiba Inu, and Crypto.com. So this adoption of Doge and others is just showing us that more and more sectors are showing great interest in these cryptos. And this is why I believe that despite its current sluggish price movement, the long-term outlook of Doge is very bullish. Now let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin's price analysis. So according to Rand Neuner, host of CNBC's Crypto Trader, Bitcoin is in a new cycle now. And he has indicated that the February Bitcoin breakout is part of a cyclical pattern that Bitcoin has been trading in over the past year. And this is the second time in less than a year that Bitcoin has reversed course to head higher following a steep downtrend. So the point is that this range-bound trading of Bitcoin at a key support level is reflecting an upcoming trend reversal. And now it appears that while Bitcoin and ETH were trading on the downside last month, whales were still interested in them. So as per data from Kraken, while the number of Bitcoin whales trended lower in January 2022, the amount of Bitcoin held by whale addresses rose significantly. So this means that despite fewer Bitcoin whales, some opportunistically bought into last month's weakness. And this means that whales are bullish on Bitcoin in the long term. In fact, we are now seeing that whales have become more interested in Bitcoin in the month of February. Whales have started accumulating more Bitcoin during the recent market recovery. And as a result, the total supply in these addresses has risen to 8.09 million from 7.9 million since January 24. Meanwhile, as per data from Coinmetrics, there is currently asynchronous accumulation behavior among Bitcoin whales and fishes. And the important thing to note here is that these clusters look the same as they did in the days leading up to Bitcoin's record high of 69K in November 2021. And this means that Bitcoin may soon start a massive rally if history repeats itself. And while we are talking about an expected upward movement from Bitcoin, banking giant JP Morgan believes that Bitcoin is slightly overvalued. And it believes that Bitcoin's fair value is at 38K, and it believes that the biggest challenge for Bitcoin going forward is its volatility and the boom and bust cycles that hinder further institutional adoption. However, we know that JP Morgan has always held a more bullish outlook for Bitcoin in the long term compared to the short term. And despite the bearish short-term outlook, the bank believes that Bitcoin will go as high as 150K in the future. And another thing I want to mention here is that the assumption of JP Morgan about lack of institutional adoption appears to be somewhat wrong. This is because we are now seeing that institutional investment in Bitcoin has started to increase during the last 3 weeks. And this is why I think that Bitcoin is going to trade much better in the following trading sessions. And talking about rising institution adoption, investor Bill Miller thinks that we are going to see a lot of adoption for Bitcoin among foundations and institutions this year and beyond. Moreover, he stated that holding Bitcoin is very similar to having insurance against financial catastrophe. And this is why he said that his allocation to Bitcoin still is very big. So these are very bullish remarks for Bitcoin, especially considering that Bill Miller is a legendary investor, and what he is predicting shouldn't be overlooked. Meanwhile, some industry players appear to be not too bullish on Bitcoin and other cryptos. So Tim O'Reilly believes that while the crypto and NFT space is booming, its growth may be unsustainable. And he thinks that it really is a pretty serious speculative bubble on a very small foundation. But the good thing is that O'Reilly still has some optimistic outlook for cryptos. And he believes that once you get those bubble valuations, it does attract a lot of capital and talent. And another warning is given by crypto analyst Tasha Chi. So Chi has highlighted that there is a rising correlation between the crypto market and the early internet stock market. And this makes him believe that the crypto market will enter an extended bear market with a similar drop to the Nasdaq's in the 2000s. So we may soon see a massive drop of around 80% in the overall crypto market. However, I don't think that this is going to happen. This is because recent studies show that the adoption curve of cryptos is looking similar to the early adoption of the internet around 1993. And this could point in at a hyper-inflection point to happen soon where crypto and its related technologies become a regular tool used in everyone's day-to-day lives. And if this happens, it is highly likely that it will call for the demand for cryptos to increase in value to rise with it. And now let's come to another very positive update for Dogecoin and other cryptos. So we are now seeing that despite strict crypto regulations in Singapore, crypto adoption has jumped 13 times in 2021 only. And this is bullish news for cryptos and especially Dogecoin because we know that it is one of the most popular cryptos in the Asian region. And this is not it. Japanese messaging app Line is expanding its crypto services as it will now allow users to pay online with Link, the native token of the Line blockchain. And while they are only rolling out this service with Link, it is highly likely that Line will allow payments in other cryptos in the future. This is because there is going to be a massive user demand to allow payments with cryptos like Dogecoin, which is the most preferable currency due to its low transaction fee. And now, if we come to Dogecoin's price, we can see here that it has been trading on the downside. And as I said before, this is happening because investors appear to be concerned over the upcoming hikes in interest rates from the Fed. However, as I explained before, the long-term outlook is still bullish for Doge. In any case, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think Dogecoin is going to rebound from here? Let me know in the comments section below.